top story today, driverless cars could become a reality on Singapore's roads in 10 to 15 years. This comes as the country seeks to create a long-term, sustainable transport system to address its growing land and manpower constraints. And the Transport Ministry says it's well past the halfway mark in adapting such cars for public use.
Industry experts say driverless vehicles could be a common sight by 2030. But according to the Transport Ministry, such vehicles could be plying Singapore's roads much sooner.
My own gut sense is it's gone very fast, very far. Not all the gaps and problems have been dealt with yet, but we are not at the beginning stages. We are I would say we're well past the halfway mark in terms of maturity of the technology to be ready for mass and public deployment on the road.
The ministry was presenting its roadmap for the future of Singapore's transport system a year after a committee was formed to chart the direction for driverless vehicles.
We look at the land constraints we have, we look at the manpower constraints we have. We know that we've got in the longer term to find a more sustainable transport solution, and we think that self-driving technology opens up a whole world of new opportunities. And so we've got very specific mobility and transportation concepts in mind that we want to trial in Singapore because we believe that these can be applied in the context of Singapore's transportation system in the longer term.
These concepts also hope to reduce road congestion, among other things. There are four main concepts. First, using driverless vehicles to complement buses and trains. Second, providing on-demand transport services with the help of smartphone or web apps. Third, transporting sea goods and cargo. And lastly, supporting utility services like road sweepers. To this end, the ministry also inked deals to further develop the technology. The first MOU is with PSA Singapore to develop technology to transport cargo. The second with Sentosa Development Corporation and ST Engineering to trial self-driving shuttle services across Sentosa. Trials for driverless vehicles are also in the works in places like Gardens by the Bay, One North and Sentosa. The Sentosa trial will take place in January next year. The public will be able to ride these shuttles after 2018. Ultimately, the ministry says these measures are part of the overall vision to develop self-driving towns of the future. MRT trains will continue to be the main mode of transport for those travelling long distances. And almost all future rail lines will be fully driverless. Larger vehicles will travel underground, freeing up more space on the surface. There will also be room for loading and unloading of goods. Closer to ground, residents can use driverless feeder buses. This also gives operators the flexibility to deploy more buses despite a shortage of manpower. And at ground level, going driverless will result in more green spaces instead of car parks. Smaller vehicles can also pick up or drop off residents right in front of HDB blocks, making it easier and safer for the elderly and persons with disabilities to get home. But despite the benefits, some say driverless vehicles, like taxis for example, might eventually cost some drivers their jobs. But the ministry says the government will continue to help workers.
If you think back to 30, 40 years ago when there was no automation and a lot of it was manual labor, automation came about, robotics came about in many of the factories. What happened? The government put in a lot of resources to reskill, to retool all the workers so that they had higher value-added jobs, better paying jobs, jobs in other sectors which were growing. That must be the way that we continue to stay ahead in the global competition.
More trials for driverless vehicles are expected in the coming months.